The purple lines is the 2260. This is obviously torque, this is horsepower. Blue lines is the Turbo Concepts. Lose a bit in response, but you gain up here. It's a pretty good looking graph, huh?
That's a very nice graph. Not as high as the Turbo Concepts one.
Yeah, it's like 10 horsepower different up top. Actually, it's quite funny because if you overlay them, they're very, very similar. But the 2260 does spool faster. You're looking at around 3100, 3200 RPM for the 2260, and the Turbo Concepts is around 35, 36. But there's a caveat to that. For people that run pump gas like 91, 93, the 2260 is probably the better choice. Because the turbo, Garrett like you to keep the turbine or the turbo speed under a limit, whereas the Turbo Concepts, as Nick usually says, have at it. You can't break it, and we've tried and we haven't. So there's a lot more potential with the Turbo Concepts. So for anyone that's on pump gas, it's a good choice because you get a little bit more response. But if you're looking for more power and you're using ethanol, then you'd probably want the Turbo Concepts, because I think I said in the other video, this turbo is going to probably max out around 430, 440, and we're right on track, because we know when we put E85 in it, around E60, we usually get 40 horsepower gain, sometimes a little more. So I mean, it's going to be, it might even be a little under. It might be like 430, 420. Whereas Turbo Concepts will go all the way up to 500. So yeah, anyone that's on ethanol, Turbo Concepts is probably going to be the better choice, because you're going to make more power. You know, it'll make 500 quite easily. We've had it up to 570 on the S3, but that's really pushing stuff. So the white graph is the 2260 on pump 93. Blue graph is the Turbo Concepts on pump 93. So you can see they're very similar in the mid-range. Turbo Concepts makes a lot of power up top. And obviously the spool here is a pretty big chunk. So different turbo for different applications.
Now are you going to turn it up with ethanol?
Yeah, put some ethanol in it, run it. We'll probably increase the boost by maybe half a pound to a pound as the content goes up. Pour in a bunch of timing and see where we end up. So yeah, at 420, 430 is my guess, which would be right in line for what the 1.8 did, Brian's car did, and I don't remember who else we did, someone else, but that seems to be where it's going to end up.
Sweet.
Which is what, 80 to 70 horsepower less. Yesterday we did the pump gas stuff, and then today drained the tank, put ethanol in it. Yeah, so we did a few more files, just getting everything dialed in. I think I called it in the last video that this thing would probably tap out around 430, 440, and lo and behold, that's what it did. As I said, like, this turbo is probably more suited for people that are like limited on the, like, limited to pump gas. It has a bit better response, but doesn't make as much top end as the Turbo Concepts. It depends what you're doing and where you live and what fuel you can get. Still really impressive. The Turbo Concepts does need a little bit more in terms of hardware, like upgraded map sensors, upgraded charge pipes. So this is a good intermediate turbo, I guess, if you're not going crazy. And then I can show you the dynagraphs comparing pump gas, ethanol, and then we can do the comparison against the Turbo Concepts for pump gas and ethanol as well. Pretty good gain on ethanol. 68 horsepower difference. So really nice, and it carries out everywhere. On ethanol, we can get a little bit more aggressive with the timing and how much boost we make. So the response here is a little bit better. And then I'll bring up the Turbo Concepts because that's what everyone's probably going to be asking. So this is the 2260 versus the Turbo Concepts on pump 93. As you can see, aside from the spool, they pretty much overlay. Turbo Concept kind of has a little bit more power up top. There's a little bit in the mid-range here, but it varies from day-to-day conditions. We can see something like, oh wow, that's a huge difference, 10 horsepower. Yep, but here is the real story, I guess. The Turbo Concepts is like 3600, 3550, comes up real strong, like peak torque. And then the the 2260, I mean, it's a little bit more gradual, but you're kind of getting into the meat of it around 3200. Yeah, a little bit more responsive, maybe better for a daily driver if you're only running pump gas. And then let's do the comparison for ethanol, and that's where things really change. The purple lines is the 2260. This is obviously torque, this is horsepower. Blue lines is the Turbo Concepts. Again, you know, you lose a bit in response, but you gain up here 80 horsepower, 85 horsepower. And it can do more. We're purposely keeping it at 500. Hopefully that will answer some questions that we've seen in people asking in the social media. Everyone says they're going to switch over when we release this tune, so now I'll go do it.